The Menendez brothers are once again making headlines almost 30 years after they were convicted of killing their parents.
And Eric and Lyle Menendez have long claimed that they killed their parents in self-defense after years of abuse. Now, the Los Angeles District Attorney says he will review new evidence in this case. Here to break it all down for us in this edition of Better Call Brian is ABC News contributor Brian Buckmire.
Good
Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
All right, before we get into this case, which people are talking about, we have to talk about Diddy first, if we could. The hip-hop mogul due back in court today. His attorneys are now claiming that the DOJ leaked information and that that's going to compromise his trial. Will that have any mileage?
Yeah, so I think it will have mileage in the sense of they can make the argument. Whether or not they can prove there's a leak, that's another question. The defense attorney is saying that the leak of the video, specifically that video of Sean Combs assaulting Cassie, prejudiced him in a way that he's not going to have a fair trial, and even could have potentially affected this bail argument and why he's still incarcerated. But they've got to somehow prove that there's a leak. They're also pointing the finger at DHS, who led the search of his two homes, as potentially leaking the information.
All right, and so how are federal prosecutors responding? So
Damian Williams, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, has already come out and said that they didn't even have possession of that video before it got leaked. And they're saying, and it kind of devil's in the details, that they don't believe that DHS had it either or released it. So there's still a bit of a search. The defense attorneys are asking for an evidentiary hearing to kind of flush it out.
Let's talk about the Menendez brothers now. Back in the spotlight, making national headlines. You get two projects now on Netflix. Kim Kardashian is calling for their release because of new evidence. How much does public opinion play in a case like this, especially when you've had changes over the years?
So I would say it plays a large part in it for probably multiple reasons. Two come to mind first. First and foremost, don't forget, state prosecutors are often elected officials. And George Gascon, the LA district, or the LA County, district attorney, he's up for re-election on December 1st. He's currently going through an election. So public opinion of how this case went down definitely is going to affect his re-election. But the other aspect too is how we view evidence. And that's a big argument the defense is making here. They're saying that back in the late 80s, early 90s, the perspective or the perception of young boys or young men being sexually abused was not the way that it was today.
Walk us through the motions that the defense is now going to present as new evidence in this case.
So there are two main motions. There's what's called a writ of habeas corpus, a fancy legal term to say that the body is here, they're bringing someone forward, and a resentencing motion. That writ is them arguing that there could have been a different outcome if this new evidence was presented either at the trial level or at sentencing. And the resentencing is making that second argument that if this information was there, particularly this new facts that they found about a letter that was signed by Eric 8 or 9 months prior to the actual killing, as well as a member of a boy band saying that he too was sexually assaulted by Jose Menendez, the father of the two men, that could have changed the trajectory of this case both at trial and at resentencing. And this motion, or these motions, are trying to make that argument.
So what are the options for the DA and what comes next?
So what comes next is that there's going to be a hearing at the end of November, and the DA is going to first just check out the authenticity. Is this letter actually real? Are these statements by this boy band member, is it actually correct? And if those are proven to be true, then the question becomes, how could this information have affected the trial if it was presented at that time?
What does it mean to have imperfect self-defense?
Yeah.
Because we keep hearing this and it will arise in this trial.
Yeah, so imperfect self-defense is very specific to that of California, but you might hear it in other instances as well. It's easier to describe self-defense first. Self-defense is when I subjectively believe that I am in danger of physical harm, and I subjectively believe that I need to use imminent force to protect myself. And then the last part is you all, being the jurors or society, objectively believe I'm correct. When we talk about an imperfect self-defense, those first two parts might apply, that I subjectively believe I'm in danger and that I need to use force, but objectively you all say, that's not right. And that's an imperfect self-defense. For a perfect self-defense, I'm completely off on the charges. I commit murder, I did it in self-defense, I'm no longer charged with murder. For imperfect, if I do that, I'm still charged with murder, but I can go down for manslaughter rather than the charges going away altogether.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, of course, as always, for sharing your insights, Brian Buckmire. We appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you.